While the new American space age is drastically different than that of the 1960s, of course, today's American culture has a lot in common, and a modern space innovation could have similar effects on the American people. That's according to One America's Stefan Kleinhenz in Washington.
American space innovation has come a long way since its birth in the 1960s, but today's rebirth of the American space age parallels that of the 60s and could have similar effects today on our American culture. While the coronavirus pandemic has spread to every corner of the earth, protests and riots have taken over major cities, and a pivotal election is just around the corner. There is reason to seek unity. George Landreth, the president of Frontiers of Freedom, says that perhaps we must look to the moon, the stars, and even Mars to once again find reason to unite behind an American pride right here on Earth.
If you look back during the 60s when John Kennedy kind of announced his vision of going to the moon within the next decade.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
It was a tumultuous time. You know, there's Vietnam, there were riots, and there are all kinds of things going on.
Washington, and a giant demonstration against the Vietnam War by more than 20,000 protesters.
And I remember as a very young child watching the moon, the launch, and then them walk on the moon. And it was just the whole nation was wrapped in this amazing event.
1960s America united on the moon, and perhaps today's America can unite on Mars.
Space would help us kind of realize there's a big picture out there.
Landreth, like many others, sees commercial space as the future of American exploration beyond Earth. But he doesn't think the private sector is quite ready to embark on that journey without government's assistance.
Maybe someday, commercial space all by itself can go to Mars. Today, that's not going to happen. We really, government has to play a role.
Government's role, however, is already greatly reduced now compared to the 1960s when it began. In 1962, Kennedy praised the effects of space exploration on the private sector.
Finally, the space effort itself, while still in its infancy, has already created a great number of new companies and tens and thousands of new jobs.
Those effects of the space program on the private sector are even more notable today.
There was a time in the 60s when there was no private or commercial ability to launch a satellite. The government had to do it. It was just too difficult, too expensive. It was too new.
While it is cheaper today for commercial companies like SpaceX to launch satellites into space, Landreth does worry that the private sector, while cutting costs, potentially risks safety.
But safety always has to be a primary concern. When you're putting American men and women in a spacesuit and putting them on top of a rocket, we can't have basically made cost savings the primary focus.
What does remain the same in today's America as the one of the 1960s is the quest to better our world by exploring beyond it.
This country was conquered by those who move forward, and so will space.
It's part of our DNA as Americans. We're explorers.
And so, perhaps space can be to us today what it was those 60 years ago, an opportunity for hope.
There is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet, and its opportunity for peaceful cooperation may never come again.
It would be something that would be good for our country. I think we need to, we spend too much time sometimes nitpicking with each other about little things that we might disagree on. And I think all Americans agree that they want freedom and opportunity for every single person who's here.
We may just have to go back to space to come back together here at home. Stefan Kleinhenz, One American News, Washington.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.